So now we are finally going to talk about one of the Sky games, which I feel like I have made it no secret as I'm talking about these games that the Sky games are my favorite. I talk about how the Laboral cast is absolutely fantastic. They're my favorites of the whole bunch. I've talked about how I love its art style. I really like the sprite work. It has this very timeless, classic feel to it. I feel like I've probably, I know I know in Kuro, I was like, this is the only time I've cried in the series that had nothing to do with Sky. So clearly I have a very strong emotional attachment to it. But now we're finally going to talk about one of them, and as you can tell by the video, we're doing the third first. Because I haven't been doing these in order, it is just whatever game I want to talk about next. I think I can do a roadmap for the rest of these videos, because I think I know what my vibes are. The third, Trails from Zero, then I think I'm going to do Reverie, FC, Cold Steel 3, and then end with SC, which, as I know I have said, is my favorite game, just full stop, period, although I think a conversation can be made about whether I like it or Persona 5 more. I prefer the story and cast of SC, although I adore the story and cast of Persona 5. But Persona 5's gameplay is way more fun than SC's. And when it comes to their presentation, I think they both earn my holy trinity of game soundtracks, along with Final Fantasy VI. This is just really, really, really good sprite work, but holy shit, Persona 5 just has its own unique style that it oozes in, like, every frame of it. So this, I think, P5 is probably the better game overall. SC is the better story. But it is what it is. But I'm not here to talk about those games. So if you've got a JJNW bingo card, you can already mark the free space and then the tangent, which is probably also its own free space. So anyways, just my general thoughts on the third is that SC and FC and SC, sorry, it's first chapter, second chapter, my mistake. But FC and SC feel like one complete story. They're technically two games, but you could play them as one. Like, I played all three of these back to back to back. I played almost the entire series that way. But it feels like one story. This feels like DLC. It feels like, is it important? Sure, because you never got Kevin's story in SC. He was just kind of there. Like, I like Kevin in SC, don't get me wrong. It's like, yeah, he shows up. He's a really clutch and, like, necessary party member for a lot of fights. Like, he is a great cleric. But you don't really get who he is or what he's about. And at the very end of the game, it throws a massive curveball. You're like, oh, okay, I can't wait to learn everything about this guy. And apparently the creators thought the exact same thing, because they're like, alright, let's give him his own game. The third does not feel like a Trails game. I don't remember if I said this in one of the videos or if this was just something I was telling to Clay, so I'll go ahead and say it here just in case. Cold Steel 1, when I was kind of looking back on it, there's times I'm like, I don't know if this feels like a Trails game, but the more I realized, I feel like it just doesn't feel like the first 5, the Sky Trilogy, Zero, and Azure. But, Cold Steel 1 definitely feels like the first modern Trails game. There is an emphasis on bonding points. You're not actually exploring the overworld. You just kind of go to location. You're like, okay, cool. Now that you're here, vibe for a bit, do whatever, but you're not actually exploring the world. You know, the 3D models. There might have been one or two other things, but I feel like, knowing where the series has gone since, it still does feel like part of the series. The third is the black sheep, and I know Reverie took some cues from it, so it almost kind of gets grandfathered back in, but even then, Reverie to me still feels like a Trails game. And I know we'll talk about that more when we actually talk about Reverie, but the third's lack of NPCs, quests, visiting towns, it is just a dungeon crawler. It's weird. And even then, like, you've got a story, but it feels like the entire story of the third feels like it could be told in a chapter or two of FC or SC. It just feels like, oh yeah, we had in SC, we really went into the backgrounds of a lot of the characters, like Agate and Tita had a chapter together, and it's really good. Shara has a chapter where it's kind of getting some of her shit. Zin has his arc going on. Like, it feels like, oh shit, we forgot Kevin in SC. We have to do something for him real quick. And so here it is. Here is his entire story stretched out arguably longer than it needs to be. And I like Kevin, and I like his story. I don't want to give the assumption that, like, oh yeah, I don't like this game. Spoiler alert, it's a Sky game. It gets a really high score. But I can't deny the fact that the vibes of the game, they're kind of off. Like, it really does feel like, here's this great, complete story. Here's also some extra shit we couldn't fit in. And it's good. It's not like I'm like, oh man, all this extra content is terrible. Like, it's more Sky content. I love it. It's not unnecessary, especially because a lot of things get set up in this game. But I feel like if you've played these games, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Like, it's good. You're glad you played it. You're glad you got Kevin's story. It's a good story. But to me, it does not have the same weight or impact. Oh, wait. Sorry, I don't know if you guys have seen the video of, it's from, like, the old Spider-Man cartoon, and so here's another to jump a tangent, by the way, of the Kingpin, giving his backstory, and everything is about his weight. I think it's really funny. It's like, I was bullied as a kid because of my weight, and I went to prison and I amassed more weight. My father abandoned me because of my weight. But, sorry, memes aside, to me it does not have the same weight or the impact of the first two games. And it's weird. But it's still really good, so I guess let's go ahead and start talking about the individual aspects. So as always, we start with the presentation, and it's a Sky game. I think the sprites look really good. I think that it still has that timeless classic feel of a Sky game. Not as much as SC and FC, but it's still there. I love the designs. I really like everyone's outfits. I know I've said it before, to me, a character's outfit is one of the most important things about their design, because it's what really lets me pick them out from a crowd. I know there's like, the whole silhouette thing. I don't know if I could pick these people out just by their silhouettes. I could try, but I see the outfit, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what Estelle wears, because it's something that's comfortable, it's easy for her to move around and fight in. I see Olivier. I'm like, oh yeah, he's just wearing this, he's wearing a nice outfit. I guess it kind of depends, like, if he's wearing his princely outfit, because that thing is, it's great. I love it. It's like, yes, this looks royal as hell. Or you've got Chloe in her, like, royal outfit. I'm like, that just looks really nice. Very classy. I can 100% seeing a princess wear that. But then you got Olivier's, like, traveling outfit, which is just, it's just a nice jacket. And as I've said, you got a nice coat, you got a nice jacket, you got a great design. You look at Agate, it is, his shirt that's, like, not covering his arms and his bandana. Like, this dude is just a thug. One look at him, everything this dude's about, and it's fantastic. You got Tita, and then her freaking goggles, like, oh, she's the engineer. Totally get it. You've got Zin and his just big unga-bunga-ness, and I'm like, alright. I like Zin. I don't really have much to say about his character. I think he is probably the least interesting main member of the Sky crew. But I still like him. I still think he has a solid design. You've got Ren. Who, like, Ren and Richard, really major characters in this game. I love Ren's dress. It's just a very nice, princessy, frilly kind of dress thing. And I know in Reverie, Lapis has an alternate outfit that's just that dress. And so I had her wearing that most of the game, and even in that scene, we'll talk about when we get to Reverie, you might know what I'm talking about. And I was just, as it was going on, like, I really should not have had her in a different outfit. It kind of ruins the scene. But I can't fault the game for that. Like, that one's on me. That one's on me. But it's like, yeah, I think the designs are good. I think the look of everything is good. The music, it's the Sky soundtrack. And as I just said 5 minutes ago, the Sky is in my holy trinity of game soundtracks. But here's the thing. FC has a really good soundtrack. SC takes that soundtrack, adds some more good songs in there, and then takes some of the best songs from the first game soundtrack and gives them additional meaning and weight. Like Silver Will. And then you get Hummel, another version of Silver Will, and how that kind of resonates with me. How listening to Whereabouts of Light throughout the game, whenever you hear, like, this is a nice song, I like it. And then when you hear it in SC, it just reminds you of what you've lost and what you're trying to get back. And, like, every time I hear it, I'm like, I gotta get my boy back. We're gonna do this. We're like, it's so good. Like, it's so brilliant how it fucking does that shit. You've got the towers, and then that motif. I don't know why I'm doing this. It just makes me feel better. I guess I'm conducting myself. Like, you get that motif, which just keeps showing up. And then you get to the final dungeon, and it's there. And then you get to the next part of the final part of the final dungeon, like, this music is weird. This is some weird alien-sounding shit, but I dig it. And that fucking motif, it's still there. It feels like it's all connected. I don't remember the new music that the third added. I remember the battle theme, like the piano, the da-da-da-da, I don't even know if I'm doing it right. Like, I can hear it in my head, but I don't know if I can really translate it out, as kind of weird as that sounds. And even then, I remember the battle theme, but I don't hate it. I think it's good. I think it's fine. It's not one of my favorites. It's no Sophisticated Fight. It's no Glint of Cold Steel, Burning Throb, which I said it with a straight face, but then I immediately started giggling, because in my head I was giggling, because I can't say Burning Throb, seriously. It is certainly no, Getting Over the Barrier. What a fucking bop that song is, dude. It's like this one, I don't even know what it's called. Like, it's good. I remember liking the final dungeon music. I don't remember how it went at all, but I know I liked it. Even then, it's like, I played this before I played Zero. I remember Zero's final dungeon. Like, that one goes so hard. Zero is such a good soundtrack, man. I know I shit on Crossbell, and in the Zero video, I'm gonna shit on Crossbell, but I have nothing bad to say about its soundtrack. It is impeccable. But again, like the third, you're taking songs I already really like, so I'm not gonna, how do I want to say it? I'm gonna penalize it for not adding new shit. Like, it did, but not new shit that I'm like, I love this, but I'm not gonna be super harsh, because I still like the soundtrack. It's a Trails game, and even then, it's a Sky game. I feel like, for me, a 4 out of 5 feels fair. So we're just going to go with that. And so now, we go on to the gameplay. This is the first Sky game I am talking about. So, I feel like this thing... Let me try that again. Since this is my first Sky video specifically, unless you count my, when I was trying to do a podcast, I do have an FC video in there. So my FC video is actually probably going to be really short. But anyways, this is probably the first time you'll hear me say that gameplay is the weakest part of the Sky games. And I still think they're very fun games, but it's, when the presentation is so good and the story is so good and the gameplay is really good, but has some notable flaws, it's definitely the weaker element. I think, to me, Azure is probably the perfection of the Sepith system. Because of the shit it adds. Like, Kuro does its own weird thing with a Sepith system, which I don't love and I don't hate, mostly because, as I said in the Kuro video, Kuro's just fucking weird with its gameplay. But Azure is like, okay, so we took the Sepith system as it was. Here's what we added. Master Quartzes, which give you additional abilities and way more Sepith. And Bell Quartzes, which also gives a really useful additional ability. And also fuck ton of Sepith of that element. They're really helpful, and just with the amount of crap you can do with those, so good, so fun. But I've also talked in the Azure video about how what I don't like about that game's combat is the actual characters themselves. Because everyone got nerfed coming out of Zero instead of getting buffed. And by the end of the game, I'm not like, man, I feel so strong now, like I've gotten better. It's, I got back to where I was before. And it's not like a story thing where, oh man, now we're so weak, we gotta get back. It's, no, we're strong and we keep getting stronger, even though we've been nerfed into the ground. And what? And then the new characters they add, I mean, like, you get Risha at the end of the game, she's a fucking monster. But Noelle, she's fine in combat. Wazy, I could never get Wazy to work, even at the end of the game when he's supposed to be absolutely broken. He was fine. He was okay. He was mediocre, I'm gonna be honest. I say all that because even though I think Azure's the perfection of that system, the third is the most fun game to use the Sepith system. No contest. I think it is the second most fun game in the entire series after Reverie. This game is a blast. No, it doesn't give me Master Quartz. No, it does not give me Bell Quartz. But it gives me gems, which is something that was introduced at the very end of SC. It's like, okay, like here's like the most powerful thing of this color. It's like attack, I think it's like attack 4 or attack 5. It's like, here's like this, and then like evade 5, like MP 5, healing 5. What is water? Oh, water's health. That's it. It's like health 5. And I think some of them actually have like multiple gems. If I'm remembering correctly, like for space, there's, I think like an EP gem and a movement gem and maybe a crit gem. Because space has been all of those at different points in the series. And it kind of varies. Like in fucking Kuro, EP, which is normally a silver thing, is now Earth. Because I don't fucking know anymore. They just decided to switch shit. And who's gonna stop them? Me? No. But regardless, it's like, okay, here's something with, it gives a big buff and a lot of that color. So you now have a lot of freedom of what kind of shit you want to do. Like when you get Ren in the party, she just has all the gems equipped. You're like, oh yeah, she is ready to go, locked and loaded to Ooga Booga blow shit up. You got the fact that, you know, in FC, your characters by the end of the game feel pretty good. Then you go into SC and they keep getting stronger. In this game, you start off about where you were at the end of SC, and then you just get stronger, and you're like, what the hell? Dude, we feel unstoppable. We're absolute monsters. I had 4.5 Zemirian ore weapons by the time the game was done. So I actually don't think I've ever really talked about Zemirian ore. So short version, that is how you make a character's ultimate weapon. Is generally like you can get them from like monsters, quests, like getting all the books. It kind of depends game to game how many Zemirian ores you can get in one playthrough and what exactly you have to do to get them. I think it's always if you get all the books, you get a Zemirian ore. And then yeah, in some games it's like, oh yeah, if you beat like these specific monsters, you get one. Or you'll get a piece of an ore, and if you beat like all 3 of these monsters or however many, you can combine them and then make an ultimate weapon. So yeah, in the third, you can make 4. So I gave one to Zin, Richard, Agate, and Tita. I said I got 4.5 because if you beat the like super arena, which the ending fight of that is a fight between Cassius and Luve at the same time. It's super hard. It's so fucking fun. I love that fight so much. You have to have Zin in the party to do the Colosseum. And so if you have Zin in the party to do the thing, whoever else is there, and Annalise specifically, and you beat it, Annalise has a weapon, which you have to do like a side thing to unlock it. But if she has that, you don't have to have it equipped. But as long as you have that weapon and she is in the party in the Colosseum, it will upgrade to be even stronger than a Zemirian ore weapon. So I had that super thing and then all 4 of them. So my final party, because you have to use everybody, I had... Sorry, I'm just remembering like how freaking fun this game is. Because the final boss is like, okay, you have to divide into 4 separate parties. Each one is going to fight a big boss. If I'm remembering them right, you fight like the final boss of the game. You fight Ragna again, which is the dragon from SC. You fight the Reverie robot, which is the final boss of FC. I don't remember. I think the other thing you fight is Potter Mutter? I'm not 100 on that. I don't quite remember what the second boss was, but I feel like it was Potter Mutter, so I'm going to lock that in. Final answer. If I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong. So the first party I made was the Royals and their guards. So we had Olivier, Vander. I forgot his first name. I almost called him Kurt. I was like, no, Kurt's new class 7. That's Mueller, but that's Olivier, Vander, Chloe, and Julia. The second team, as I affectionately call them, is Team Bunga. Because essentially with these 4, all I had to do was hit the A button and everything died. Just attack, attack, attack. Oh, look, they're dead. So that was Tita, Agate, Estelle, and Joshua. Because I'm like, I can't split up Tita and Agate, and I can't split up Estelle and Joshua. That's easy money. Then the next one was the others, which is like, I don't really know, like, you don't really have anything you fit super well with, so you guys are just kind of all together. So we had Zin with Zamirian Ore, Annalise with her super weapon, Shara, and Josette, because she is also here. Although, so there's this one mechanic in the game called a remote ability, where you have a lot of freedom about who you want to have in your party or not. So you can say, like, okay, this character is not in my party, but because they're not, I can use a special ability. I believe Josette's was you just get more Sepith. So I was like, wait a second. The game is incentivizing me not to use Josette? They understand. They understand that she's trying. I don't hate Josette the character. I can't kind of do. But, like, I don't hate Josette. But in combat, she's garbage. She's so bad. Like, she just feels so freaking weak, man. And so the fact that the game's like, yeah, if you don't put her in the party, you just get more Sepith. All right. I see you, game. I see you, game. And that means the final party is Kevin, Rias, who is a new character, who's essentially just like Kevin's homie, Richard, and Ren. And on the one hand, there's that little part of my brain that goes, should I put Estelle and Joshua here? Because they're the main characters of the Sky games. Maybe it should have been them at the end here. And then there's the other part of my brain that goes, yeah, but Richard is really he's Unga Bunga, and Ren is Ooga Booga. And I want the, like, most powerful people at the end, so what are you gonna do? And then there's the other part of my brain that goes, hold on, though. This is actually the perfect final party. Because this is really what the story is all about. And so, like, I'm going to put a pin in that. Because I want to go and see if I have anything else to really say about the gameplay. But before I talk about that. So let's check my notes. Azure Reflection of the System, check. Gem Quartzes, check. Just character progression is cracked. Because, yes, it's fucking insane. Oh, yeah, just the fact that everyone is here. Except Kurt. Not Kurt Vander, which he's also not here, but the By My Arts guy from SC, because he's technically playable for a section of SC. It's very, very short, but he's not playable here. Aside from him, I believe everyone who is playable in SC is here fully playable. So yeah, I mean, that's everyone I mentioned, because I just went over everybody. And then I also said plus RRR, Rias, the new character, Richard and Ron. Team Bunga, I have written in all caps because I love them. Like, I love these 4 characters as characters. And just the fact that they just so dominated that one part of the game was incredible. And then, yeah, after that, it's just the bosses. Which I talked a little bit. I talked about, like, yeah, this is the, like, gauntlet you run at the end of the game, and it's really fun. The Cassius Louve fight. The fact that during the story, you get to fight Cassius Bright, and it's fun as hell. You get to fight Louve again, and it's fun as hell. And even then, there's some other interesting shit. There's a fight with Kilika. I don't remember if there was anyone with her. I think there was, but I don't remember who. Like, there's a fight against Kilika. There's a fight against, what's his name? Philip, who was the bodyguard of Chloe's shitty uncle. Was it her uncle? It was like her uncle or her cousin. I want to say it was her uncle. Who was like, he's kind of this old man. He's like this retired dude, but he makes it clear. He's like, yeah, in my youth, I was a badass. And then you get to fight him. We're like, that's really cool. I love this fucking game. The super boss. Okay, so there's 2 super bosses. Because if I remember correctly, the way you unlock the final thing in the Colosseum, which is the Cassius Luve Cup, I don't remember exactly what, it's like nightmare difficulty or some shit, is I think you get it by beating the boss in the depths of hell, which is a giant shining palm. And this thing is a monster because it just does not take damage. I remember what I did was I had Richard with his Zemirian ore weapon. I basically just had to have him spam his S-craft because the only thing that hurt it. But it was just like, what the hell? This thing is cracked. It is whipping my ass. I just can't hurt it. This is so fun. This is so funny. Oh, and you also get to fight Weissman again. And anytime you get to beat the shit out of Weissman, that's a W in my book. Fuck that guy. I think the only other fight I have on here is if I remember correctly, you get to fight the 3 remaining enforcers from SC, because Ren's in the party. I've already talked about Luve, at the same time. So you're fighting Luciola, Blue Blanc, Walter. I don't remember if they also summoned any of their droogs for the fight. I don't think so. I think it was just the 3 of them. And that shit is fucking crazy. Like, you can do some stuff as Ren, like an optional, like, side quest or whatever. And if you do, you get a new S-craft, which is just summoning Potter Mater. Like, this is so cool. Like, he's not playable summon, but, you just like, come forth, Potter Mater. He just nukes the entire field. Oh, it's so fun. This is, to me, it's a 5 out of 5 game when it comes to its gameplay. Like, no question. It is so ludicrously fun, ludicrously cracked. And it's magnificent. I love playing this game. And now, we move into the story. So, let me take that pen out. As I said earlier, as a kind of standalone story, I think it's good. I think it's fine. I don't think, to me, it has the same weight or impact as the first 2 games' story. But I really like its theming, though. To me, it has a very clear theme about redemption. And there are 3 characters in the game, Kevin, Richard, and Ren, who are all being offered redemption. And throughout the game, they're all rejecting it, and it's all for different reasons. You have Kevin, who, as part of his backstory, he killed one of his best friends. She had, if I'm remembering exactly how it went, he'd been taken in by the church. He was looked at, what are their names? It's Rufina and then Rias. So Rufina took him in. Rias was her little sister. So Kevin and Rias have been besties for their entire lives. I believe it was the church was being attacked by Jaegers, and Kevin's stigma activated. So essentially he just kind of went demon mode, and he ended up killing Rufina. And it was something that has haunted him his entire life. It is why I am the heretic hunter. Not because I am so passionate about killing heretics, but because I am always throwing myself into danger. Because I don't deserve to live. I murdered someone. I murdered someone I cared about. And as far as I'm concerned, it's not the first time. Because it's also part of his backstory. The reason he was an orphan is because, if I remember correct, his mother killed herself. And I think she was going to try to kill Kevin as well, but either she wasn't able to, he escaped, or he just wasn't there at the time. I don't exactly remember how it went down. But she committed suicide, and Kevin always blamed himself. He's like, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I killed my mom, and then I killed one of my best friends. So, if I have power, and the church wants me to use it, I'm already a killer. I'll just keep doing it. And hopefully, at one point I won't come back. And yeah, that's some fucked up shit, man. I think it is a good story. I like Kevin's story. The pacing of it is kind of weird. Like I said, like, you might, like, start a chapter, and then, like, 2 minutes later, the chapter ends. Like, I remember that happening once or twice. I was like, that was an entire chapter? That was fast. Does this really need to be its own, like, 30-hour game? I mean, it's fun as hell, but I don't know if this was a 30-hour game kind of story. But I do think it is a good story. I think it's an interesting story. And I like how it is his guilt that keeps him from accepting redemption. Like, no, I don't deserve to be happy. I should not be happy with the things I have done, with the things I know I am still capable of doing. No, that happiness is better used on other people. That forgiveness is better used for other people. And then you move on to Richard, who, in the first game, starts a coup. And by the end of the game, it is revealed that he was brainwashed. But it's not like, oh, he was brainwashed, everything is forgiven, and you're fine, you didn't actually do anything. Like, no. He was brainwashed, but he still believed what he was trying to do. It's just he didn't exactly remember where the thoughts came from. He's still culpable. And how with Richard, people still refer to him as Colonel, because that was his rank in the military, which he's no longer a part of. And he's like, no, don't call me that. I don't deserve to be called that anymore. I'm a civilian now. I'm trying to change my life, do something different. Because again, like Kevin, I don't deserve it. But for me, the emotion between them is different. To me, with Kevin, it's guilt, and with Richard, it's shame. And those are really, really similar. I won't deny that. But I feel like the difference is Kevin's, with his guilt, it's, I did something unforgivable, so I don't deserve this. It is more of, it's based on his sense of morality. With Richard, and with it being shame, to me it feels more like his pride is wounded. Both in the sense of, I succumbed to the brainwashing. I thought I was better than that. I thought I was stronger than that. And also just I also did something I'm not proud of. Doing a coup because I believed the queen wasn't strong enough because she was a woman. Like, what's wrong with me, man? Like, I should know better than that. I can't believe I did that. Like, it's a shameful act, but it doesn't rise to the level of something that what Kevin did, and also what Kevin perceives him to have done to his mother. Kevin is a wounded soul. Richard is wounded pride. But it is still something where when people are trying to be, like, a lot more gracious to him, he's like, I don't deserve it. Please. Like, I know you're used to calling me Colonel. Don't. And then you have Ren, the young girl. She's like 12, I think, in the Sky Games. And in SC, when she meets Estelle's like she's a kid, she's a precious kid, this kid's great. And then, ends up finding out that Ren, sorry, my hand's hurting a little bit. I'm going to hold it like this for a while. Sorry, the close-up on my palm, but once the other one feels better, I'll switch. It feels a little bit better. Let's go back and switch. So, Estelle's like, you're a kid. I know. You've probably seen some shit. I know you've probably done some shit. Hell, you tried to kill me multiple times. But I want you to have that chance at a normal life, at a better life. These other people that you're working with, they're adults. They've made their choices. They understand what they're doing. But you're a kid. You still have time. You should be able to live as a kid. And I love that, like, after the final fight with Ren, Estelle just slaps her. She's just like, poof. And Ren's like, you're just a bully too, Estelle. Like, you talk about how you're like a good person, that you're different from other people. You're just the same as everyone else. And Estelle's like, cool. Now I've disciplined you. And then just gives her a hug. She's like, but you need to be disciplined. You need to know when you've done something wrong. But you also need to know that you can improve and that you can be forgiven. And Ren, upon like having this hugging, is like, I'm gonna go, bye. And then, like, that's basically how, like, her story at SC ends. And the third, she comes back, and it's revealed that, yeah, Estelle and Joshua have been looking for her. They're like, we're trying to find you. We want to give you this chance at a normal life, at a better life. And Ren has been avoiding them. And yeah, like, she talks a big game. You know, she's a very intelligent person, so she's really good at, like, talking shit to people. And I remember there's a scene where Rias just sizes her up and cuts her the fuck down. And it's gosh, Rias has this line when she first meets Gilbert, where, what does she say? She's like, you just ooze irrelevance. There's like, you ooze irrelevance from your pores or something. I was like, damn! She just killed him, dude! And I mean, she's not wrong. It's Gilbert. Dude, Gilbert gets so many good scenes in this game. He's so funny. I'm sorry, I fucking love Gilbert. Any game that gives him ample screen time is a top tier game. Maybe I should have given Cold Steel 4 a little extra points just because they brought Gilbert back into the series. But anyways, point. Ren has been avoiding them. And although, like, yo, she talks a big game, she talks a lot of shit, it is very, very clear that it's not, I'm rejecting you because I understand who I am. I've made my choices. I want to be bad. It is because she is scared. She doesn't know, like, all right, if I do this, if I, let them in, if I'm vulnerable, I might just get hurt again. And I've been hurt enough in my life. I don't want to risk that. I want to trust them, but I just can't. And so the way the side quests work in this game, because I know I mentioned earlier there's no side quests, I'm like, yeah, you do a side quest. It's because there's these, like, it's more that there's sub-events. There's not really gameplay, although some of them are minigames, where it's just like, hey, watch a really long cutscene. And here's just some extra shit that happens. Here's a scene of after SC, Chloe talking to Joshua and being like, I need to come clean, because I kind of never get over this if I don't just bring it up. I love you. I've been in love with you, but I know Estelle's your girl. Hypothetically speaking, if you were to have met me before Estelle, do you think your feelings would have ever changed? I'm gonna be honest, Chloe, no. You're great. You're a great friend of mine, but I don't love you that way. I only see Estelle that way. Cool. Thanks. Needed to get that cleared up. We're good. You got another one, which is Estelle and Joshua growing up, and Estelle being like, boys love bugs. I'm gonna go catch a bug that's so cool, he has to open up and be my friend. The bug of legend. And it's so endearing. I just love these two, man. You've got a two-parter of Agate and Tita, and you get to meet Mama Russell. Well, actually, Mama Russell's introduced earlier in, like, the main story. But you get to meet Mama Russell and how she hates Agate. She's like, no. That's my daughter. That is my precious little cinnamon bun. You get those filthy green sausages away from it. We haven't watched Shrek 2 yet. But, oh boy, I'm so excited for Shrek 2. We watched El Dorado last night. I'll probably do, like, a quick thing on it later today. But anyways, you get to meet Mama Russell. Bitch is crazy. I love her. I think she's hilarious. I think you get, like, one of Richard, where he talks about, like, what he's now doing with his life. And if I remember correctly, he's, like, an information broker. I don't think we've seen him since the third, but he has been mentioned, like, his information business has been mentioned. I'm like, yeah, that is a really hype reference that if I had not played the Sky games, I'd be like, cool. I guess they got information from this one group. And I'm like, that's so fucking hype. Let's go, my boy. Oh, I didn't even talk about with gameplay just how broken the two of them are. Okay, let me finish talking about stuff. Okay. Order of operations. Finish talking about side quests. Go back to gameplay to explain why Richard and Ren are so stupid. And then finish, like, the redemption thing. Okay, break. So that's basically just what the side quests are. They're just kind of sub-events. And you get Ren's backstory in one of them. You learn about Paradise. Paradise is a child brothel. And that's all I need to say. Because you hear that, and you instantly understand why she is so afraid. Why she is so afraid of vulnerability. I remember playing SC, I mean, like, I like Ren. She's a fun character. She's a real piece of shit, though. And then when I got to her door, was it Star Door 13, I think, if I'm remembering correctly? I immediately just went, you poor child. I just want to give you a hug. You don't want to be touched, and I get it. But you just need a hug. You need all of the love in the world, and those two, looking at your parents, who put you there, those motherfuckers better hope they don't show up in another game. Because if they do, it is on sight. And the reason I'm grinning is because they show up in Zero, and as soon as they showed up, I'm like, fuck you, fuck your business, fuck your house, fuck everything the two of you have built, because what you did to that little girl. And then as that arc goes on, you find out that they're completely innocent. They did not know what paradise was. There was a war going on. They're like, what's best for our daughter is if we put her in a safe place. Not understanding. And I was like, okay, you are forgiven. Because you did not know what you were doing. And you genuinely think your daughter is dead. And you love her and miss her with all your hearts. And she's right over there. I want this to work out well. We'll talk about that when we get to Zero. But that, to me, that is the best part of Crossbell, is the conclusion of Ren's story. But this is the game that really sets it up. Oh, okay, sorry. I heard, I don't know if you guys could hear, there's like an engine revving. Like, it sounds like it's right behind me. It was pretty close, but now the car's... I also don't know if you can see, it's like super misty outside. But anyway, that's not super relevant. I just thought I'd bring it up. Excuse me. So, Ren's story, really good. And like let me try that again. Redemption. Main theme of the game. Guilt, shame, fear. So with that being the main theme of the game, to me it made a lot of sense that all three of them are in the... Because Kevin and Reyes have to be in the final party. Like, these need to be the other two slots to really finish their arcs here. And then the end of the game, which, kind of everyone's saying their goodbyes. I'll be honest, I don't remember a lot of the individual goodbyes, although I remember being like, this is touching and beautiful, and I love this game. I remember Ren when she's saying goodbye to Estelle and Joshua. And how, at the very end, she's like, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. I love you too. And then she just runs off. And I was like, we're gonna save this little girl. Fuck damn it, we're gonna save this little girl. And like I said in my Cold Steel 4 video, when it starts and, kind of says everyone's names, it's Estelle Bright, Joshua Bright, Ren Bright. One of my favorite moments in the entire series. And of course, it's a Sky-related moment. As Cold Steel 4, I like the game. I think it has some narrative problems. When one of my favorite moments in the game is because of Sky. I don't know if this is more about Sky or if it does about Cold Steel, but that's its own topic. But so, I talked about that. My order of operations, I'm going to finish this point, then I'm going to talk about how broken the two of them are and why. So the reason Ren is so broken, she starts with all the gems, so it's like, cool, she has a lot of spells she can cast. Her art skill, I think, is the highest in the game. Because I don't think anyone has just better magic than her. She also has no lines, which essentially means, she has the most, she and like Olivier have the most potential for the most crazy shit. Her stats are a little better, and when you get her, she just starts with all that shit. She doesn't have the best health. I think it's like, she is pretty fragile, but she does so much damage. You're like, it's fine. Just put Ren in a corner and have her nuke the field. You're gonna be fine. Richard has this attack called Luminous Ogre Slash. Two good things about this attack. One, it does good damage. It's not like crazy, but it does good, consistent damage. Also, there's like no delay after using it. Like, you do that shit, he is going to get another turn very, very soon. So, cast Clock Up EX on Richard, something that makes him very fast. Luminous Ogre Slash, Luminous Ogre Slash, Luminous Ogre. You can do like 3 or 4 in a row, and then S-Craft if you really feel like it. But if you S-Craft, you use all your CP, so you can't spam Luminous Ogre Slash. Like, it's crazy. You just have Richard, like, taking 5 turns in a row, and then Ren nuking something. Kevin in the middle just keeping everyone alive, and then whoever you want as your other party member doing whatever the hell you need them to do. It's so ludicrously fun, man. But, okay, what was my order of operations? Because I think there was a third thing. It's like, I think what I said was finish talking about side quests, talk about the game, and then do the redemption thing. But I did side quest into redemption and then talked about that. So I might have completely forgotten the third thing, or I already addressed it. Either way, we're moving on. But, yeah, Kevin's arc, Ren's story, redemption. I did talk about how I do enjoy the side stories. There is a lot of setup in this game, which is why I feel like, as much as it kind of feels like it's not super important, especially because Kevin doesn't really exist after this game. It's not like a spoiler thing where it's like, oh yeah, he dies and like he vanishes forever. It's just, they don't really do much with Kevin afterwards. It's kind of a meme that they forget about him. But, it sets up the church. It sets up the Gralsritter and the Dominions. It sets up Ren's story, which it's technically set up in SC, but I feel like this is the game that really got me invested in her story. It also sets up the Phantasmal Blaze plan, because there's one of the side events you can do, is you just get to see the Anguisses talk to the Grandmaster. You don't see any of them. You don't see any of their faces. But they're all just talking. And I love that scene. I think it's so freaking cool, because I'm like, ooh, like, you feel like you're watching something you're not supposed to, and then Campanella breaks the fourth wall and is like, hey, I know you're watching something you're not supposed to. You're like, oh, that's so cool. I love this dude. I hate this dude. He's so creepy. I freaking love Campanella. One of my favorites. At this point in the series, we have met the second Anguiss, the fourth, the sixth, and the seventh. There's a very, very strong theory about who the first is, and the fifth is just a mystery. So it's kind of fun rewatching that scene and being like, oh, yeah, that's totally something Vito would say. 100%. Like, oh, yeah, that's Leanne. Oh, that's Novartis. Yeah, that's Novartis, you piece of shit. I really like that. I don't think there's really too much else to say about that scene in particular. Though, because I did mention Vita, I do have to bring up, apparently, in the first scene in the game, when Kevin is on a ship because he's like trying to get an artifact, his church work, there's a woman, and it's like a masquerade thing, and there's a woman that he's talking to that's kind of flirting with him, and he's kind of flirting back. Apparently, that's supposed to be Vita? I'm like, really? That's actually super interesting. Like, she made a proper appearance way before she showed up in Cold Steel then. Like, that's really cool. I like those little bits of continuity. It's like, I don't really know why she's there, but sure, I totally buy it. I think it's kind of dope. Oh, was there anything else? No, I mean, that's basically it, man. Oh yeah, I have to give it a rating. On the narrative, I'm a little torn, because like I said, the vibes feel kind of off, and the pacing feels off. And it's a good story. I don't know if it needed to be its own game. But I also still like the story. And I like the themes of the story and how it's explored with different people. And I like what they do with Ren's story. I really like a lot of the side shit. So it's not a 5 out of 5 by any means, but it's also not like a 3 out of 5. I'm like, how many points do I take off? Not because it's bad, but because it just feels weird. I think a 1.5 is a bit too much, so I'm gonna go with a 4. So that's a 4 for presentation, a 4 for narrative, so that's 8, plus 5.5, that's a 13.5. That means currently it is tied with Cold Steel 2 as the highest rated game so far. Which I was not expecting. I actually thought the third was going to be a little lower, but honestly, going through it, I'm like, this... I always knew the game was fun as fuck, but like, I think the story, looking at it, works a lot better than I think it did. And I gotta give it its credit for it. Fantastic game. Clearly one of my favorites. I just really love Skyman.